What I'm about to tell you took me a long time to even say out loud. It starts with a question from my own husband 3 days after I buried my father, and the reason behind that question is not what I thought it was. Neither was the woman behind it. The day Daniel asked me for the keys to my father's house, I had buried my father 3 days before. "Can I have the keys, Renee?" he said, not looking at me, looking at the floor, like the question cost him something to ask. I am Renee, 30, an interior designer from Denver, and that question is where this whole thing starts. My husband, Daniel, had never asked me for anything that felt wrong. So when he asked for keys to a house recently appraised at $1.2 million, paid off with 20 years of my father's overtime, my chest went tight. "Why do you need them?" I asked, watching his hands instead of his face. He hesitated, the kind of hesitation that tells you more than words do. "My mom wants to see the place." Before things get complicated, my mother-in-law, Patricia, had been helping my family for 2 years. I did not know how deep that help had gone, or how much of it had nothing to do with helping. I gave him a question instead of an answer. Complicated how, Daniel? He did not answer. My father, Walter, got sick 18 months before he died. Slow at first, then not slow at all, the kind of sickness that rearranges a family without asking permission. My mother, Joanne, was the one who invited Patricia in when none of us knew how bad it would get. She offered, Mom said. "She is so organized, Renee, a real relief." Patricia showed up with binders. Color-coded folders for hospital bills, insurance forms, prescriptions, the whole machinery of being sick laid out neat and tidy. Mom trusted her enough to hand over every folder, and everyone praised her for it. "I just think it is easier if someone level-headed handles this," Patricia said once, smiling across the table. "No offense, sweetheart," I laughed it off then. I did not laugh later. Our old neighbor, Mr. Alvarez, was there that night too, quiet as always, eating slowly, saying nothing. Dad caught my eye from across the room and did not smile back. He just watched Patricia's hands moving through his paperwork like he was watching something he could not stop. My hands went cold, and I did not know why yet. By month 9, Dad could not manage the stairs, and Patricia came by twice a week, just to keep things tidy, she said every time. Mom trusted her enough to hand over every folder, which meant Patricia moved through that house like she belonged in it. I started noticing things: a copy of Dad's property deed missing from the cabinet, a bill with a date in Dad's handwriting, October 14th, then the same date circled on a separate form, like he was carefully tracking something. "Did you move Dad's property folder?" I asked. "I filed everything where it makes sense," she said. "You are busy, Renee, let me carry some of this." I discovered months later, through a county request log Mr. Finch obtained, that Patricia had requested deed copies from the county office that same week. Not illegal, but not nothing either. Dad started writing dates on everything after that. One night I found him at the kitchen table with his chipped blue mug, staring at nothing. "Renee," he said quietly, "whatever happens, the house is yours, remember that." I told him nothing was happening. He did not agree. Dad died on a Tuesday morning, quiet, the way he did everything. The will was read 2 weeks later in a small office that smelled like old paper. It clearly named me as the sole heir to the house. Probate would make it fully official, but Dad's wishes could not have been clearer. Patricia sat very still through the reading, hands folded, face calm in a way that felt rehearsed. Afterward, in the parking lot, she touched my arm. "Of course it is yours on paper," she said softly, "but there is more to it than paper, sweetheart. Your father and I talked about things you do not know. Nobody sacrificed more than I did for that house." My stomach dropped. "What things, Patricia?" "Not here," she said, already walking to her car. "Family conversation soon." Daniel would not meet my eyes that night. "What did your mom mean?" I asked. "I do not know," he said too fast. I did not believe him. Mr. Alvarez had been standing near the church steps that day, looking at me like he wanted to say something. He had not said it yet. Sunday dinner, Patricia brought a casserole like always, like nothing in this family was wrong. Halfway through the meal, she set her fork down and looked straight at me. "Walter promised this house would stay with people who truly cared for him," she said, voice steady. "I have every right to it, Renee. I spent 2 years taking care of him." The table went still. "That house belongs in this family," she continued, gesturing between herself and Daniel. "Not just on paper." I put my fork down. "My father left the house to me, Patricia. That is the family decision, already made. I gave 2 years. You were asked to organize folders," I said, calm, not loud. "That is not ownership." "Not even close." Daniel stared at his plate. His mother's smile did not crack, but something behind her eyes shifted harder. Mom reached over and held my hand under the table, not saying a word, just holding on tight. I did not sleep that night. I kept hearing Patricia's voice. "I have every right to it," and I kept thinking, what exactly did she believe gave her that right? 2 nights later, Daniel found me on the back porch holding Dad's chipped blue mug. He sat down and did not speak for a moment. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I should have listened months ago." I waited. I drove Mom home after dinner. She forgot her bag in my car, and when I brought it inside, I found a folder, copies of Dad's property records, deed requests, a list of estate attorney offices in Denver. His voice dropped. "She planned to walk through that house and act like it already belonged to her." My chest tightened. "Why did you not believe me?" "Because she is my mother," he said quietly. I kept telling myself I was overreacting, that there had to be an innocent explanation. He was not covering for Patricia. He had been genuinely blind the way you can only be blind to someone you love. Something honest shifted between us that night for the first time in months. "There is something else," he said. "Your father met with a lawyer privately before he died. My mom found out. That is what scared her the most." My father's attorney was Mr. Finch, and finding him took longer than it should because Dad had told nobody, not even Mom. When I sat across from him in his small downtown office, he slid a single notarized document across the desk. "Your father signed this 8 months before he died," Mr. Finch said. "It states, no person other than my wife or daughter shall receive any ownership, authority, or control over this property during or after my illness." My hands went cold. "He knew," I said. "He suspected," Mr. Finch said carefully. "Too sick to fight directly, so he protected things quietly in writing the way he did everything." Then he added, "A week before coming to me, Patricia had asked Walter whether caregivers could ever inherit property if they became like family. That conversation convinced him something had changed." I thought about the dates in the margins. October 14th on the deed folder, October 14th on a napkin in the kitchen drawer. The same week Patricia requested those copies. Dad had been documenting her movements one date at a time, his chipped blue mug going cold beside him. Before I left, Mr. Finch mentioned one more name, Mr. Alvarez. "Your father asked him to hold a specific memory in case it ever mattered." I drove straight to his house. He answered before I even finished knocking, then sat down slowly across from me. "I hoped I would never have to tell you this," he said quietly. "Your father helped me once years ago. I was behind on bills, too ashamed to ask anyone. Walter handled it quietly, no fanfare. Patricia was there. She saw him pull handwritten records from his desk instead of a bank statement and realized Walter documented everything privately in his own hand. That is when she started thinking about how to get inside his paper trail." He paused. 2 years ago she came to me, asked me to sign a statement saying Walter promised her a share of the house for her caretaking." My stomach turned. "What did you do?" I told her no, he said. "Walter asked me to stay silent until she actually challenged your ownership. He did not want to accuse anyone without proof, so I waited, and here you are." The next family dinner I came prepared. I brought Mr. Finch's notarized statement, the deed request dated October 14th, and Mr. Alvarez sitting beside me. Patricia's face changed the moment she saw him. "Do you want to tell everyone what you asked Mr. Alvarez to sign?" I said. "Or should I?" The table went still. Daniel looked at his mother like he was seeing her for the first time. "Mom," he said, "you asked for those keys before Renee had even buried her father." Silence landed on that like weight. Patricia's hands went still. "I gave 2 years," she said. "I watched Walter get weaker every week. I convinced myself I deserved something back. A place in the family," I said, "or a place on the deed." She did not answer. Everyone in that room understood both things at once, the entitlement and the loneliness, the way one had fed the other until she could not tell them apart. The truth sat there calm and complete. Nobody raised their voice. "The house is still mine, the way Dad always meant it to be. Patricia does not come to Sunday dinners, and that folder from her car is long gone." Daniel quietly told his mother she would never again have access to our finances, paperwork, or home without being asked. That was the only consequence she needed. Daniel and I went to counseling, not easy but honest. Mom kept Dad's chipped blue mug on her counter, and some mornings I find her just holding it, saying nothing. What I learned is that protection does not always look like a fight. Sometimes it looks like a quiet man writing dates in margins by kitchen light, too tired to battle but too careful to leave his daughter unguarded. Dad never told me he was scared. He just made sure his fear could not be used against me. If this story stayed with you, please like this video, subscribe so you never miss the next one, and tell me in the comments. Was it Patricia, Daniel, or Renee you understood the most? My father gave everything quietly. In the end, quiet was exactly what saved us.